So is it love or just mania? Today we're going to go over 10 helpful tips on polar warriors that might help you tell the difference. If this is your first time checking out my channel, welcome. We are completely dedicated to helping those who live with bipolar disorder to live a little bit more of a peaceful and fulfilling life. So does anybody else that's bipolar fall in love so fast that your head just spins? Like the next thing you know, you're living together and planning your honeymoon in Paris 2 weeks after your first date? Oh, I've never done that myself, but I have been known to exaggerate every once in a while. Anyways, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. So how do we tell the difference between mania and the throes of love? Well, it turns out that groups of psychiatrists and doctors are actually taking a look at this very topic right now. And knowing the difference can really prevent a lot of damage in our lives. When I get manic personally, or I should say hypomanic, I'm a lot more likely to feel that I'm in love, and unfortunately it does make it a lot easier to act on those feelings. I can't even tell you how many times when I was younger that I would meet someone and make a serious long-term commitment or decision without even considering for a minute that mania might be impacting my choices, because, you know, we all know we never make rash or poor choices when we're manic, right? Right. So time and time and again, I would literally jump headfirst into some nasty toxic relationship where compatibility between us was like an elephant and a chicken hooking up. Okay, it was that bad. But at the time I was so sure that I found my soulmate. You know, aside from the fact that they were abusive addicts with horrible tempers and a knack for cheating, but who cared about all of that? I was on top of the world when I was manic. And interestingly enough, by the time I came back down to this planet, I was wondering who the heck this person was that I started dating. Like, maybe they lied to me or they were just fake when we first met. It's really interesting how that works. So many years and a lot of collateral damage later, I finally started to see a pattern. And what I realized was that I wasn't always the victim of who I was dating. I was actually the victim of a lot of my own hasty choices. And it took a long time for me to find some guidelines. And of course, I'll share these with you that helped make me sure that I wasn't going to end up right back in the same situation again. For example, some things to consider would be like, how did you meet? What were the circumstances? Was it a bar or a hookup dating site? Have we known this person for a long time? Do they really love me? And even harder yet, just stopping for a minute and asking myself, is this person basically a means to an end to satisfy some underlying personal craving? Or is there really a deep emotional connection that we both feel? And then, of course, there's the typical manic conditions or symptoms that we should be aware of, like, have I been sleeping well, or especially around the time that I met this person? Or did my energy peak and I met them when I was having a blast with friends, like the life of a party, and they noticed me because of that? Now, on the flip side of all this, when I get depressed, I also get really lonely. In fact, I hate it. And having somebody special, of course, is a lot more comforting than just calling your friend to talk. When I'm down and lonely, something I've noticed that I lower my standards, or I end up settling for a mediocre relationship. And I've ended up with some really unhealthy codependent relationships because of things like that. I mean, just think about this for a minute. How many times have you been super depressed and you met someone and all of a sudden your depression is cured and it's nothing but puppies and rainbows again, right? Love is a huge dopamine factor. It just pumps it out of the brain. And here's an interesting side dish of irony to go with that, but some neural scans have actually shown that when you first fall in love, it activates the exact same, I guess you call them reward pathways in the brain that are activated during certain kinds of addiction. It's almost like we're addicted to love, baby. And to top it all off, MRIs have shown that totally different reward pathways just light up like Christmas lights during mania compared to the rush of falling in love. So there really is a difference in the brain. And it's not like there's some kind of portable pocket MRI machine that you can just press a button and take with you to see what sections of the cortex and limbic systems lighting up to see if you're actually in love or just manic. All we can do is try to remember to take a step back and try to assess the big picture to see what's going on in our lives at the time. A relationship is a huge decision for most people, and it can literally make or break some of us. So isn't that worth just slowing down for just a minute and making sure that we're not just jumping in head first into a pool without water? Let's make sure that there's some water first, all right? Now, it is important to remember that as bipolar people, we're entitled to experience true love and falling in love just like everyone else. We might just have to be a little more careful so we don't end up hurting ourselves or hurting other people, because everyone has a heart and it really sucks when it breaks for all of us. We just have to take into account that we're bipolar, and that's hard to do sometimes because love is blind. So if you find yourself willing to sell your house, move to another state, and quit your job because you met the person of your dreams last week, it might not be wise. Or if you want to use your whole paycheck to rent a limousine and take her to the most expensive restaurant in the city on your first date, that might be an impulse choice motivated by mania. So now that I've set the stage, let's get into the helpful stuff, because after all, that's what this channel is all about. So here's 10 ideas to consider when your heart is just fluttering, and by all means write this stuff down if you're serious about this, and then you can refer to your answers or use this as a reference point when you think you might be getting impulsive and starting a relationship. Now, a lot of these are motivated by a really cool book called In the Mood for Love. So number one, are your feelings for everyone intense at the time? And this could be positive or negative feelings. Like when you're in town, do you just love everyone and want to talk to everybody? Probably not a good time to be looking for a partner. Number two, is your brain racing with thoughts like exclusively about this person, or is it just racing with thoughts in general? Number three, have you swiped that credit card lately? And if so, was it something special or personal and intimate, like something that they expressed that they really liked, or roses, or a CD with songs you want to dedicate to them? Or did you buy a big fancy car to pick them up in, or new suits, or 10 different glamorous bags and shoes? Those are things to look back on and really consider. Now, for number four, is this new flame or love the only new thing in your life, or have you picked up 2 new hobbies and started a bunch of new projects around the house recently? And now for number 5, are the things that this person's interested in aligned with your personal interests, or only when you're manic? Like, do you all of a sudden want to go to the gym or go to a concert of music that you really never listened to with this person? Okay, the next one, number 6, this one can be a little hard to answer when we're manic, but that would be if this is all about us. You know, like, have we been feeling that we're super talented and super powerful and special, or is our new partner the one that's special and perfect? I know for me personally, when I'm on a manic dating spree, I can totally feel overconfident, like I'm the best thing since sliced bread, or that my shit doesn't stink. Now, for the 7th one, how has your internal clock been lately? Have you been sleeping and eating less, or have excessive energy at the end of a really long day? Oh, and do seasons affect your mania? Like, in summer, is that when your little black book starts to fill up with numbers and dates? I think most of my relationships actually started in the summer, something I never even thought about. And it can be really hard to consider things like this when full-blown mania is just rocking my world. Now for the 8th consideration, and that would be sex, which is not the most openly talked about subject. Now, I know in a new relationship you can't keep your hands off of each other, but there's a difference between that constant manic sexual drive that becomes the motivation behind a lot of decision making compared to just getting aroused around that special person. Sexual desire is such a primitive instinct, and it's ingrained in all of us, and so it can be so freaking hard to stop for a minute and just check where your feelings or your motivation's actually coming from. All right, so the 9th and 10th considerations, I think that you really need to spend time thinking about these when you're stable, and they're really good for getting to know yourself and your needs. So the 9th one would be figuring out what qualities you are and especially are not looking for in a partner to become compatible. And this is the important part. They need to be compatible when you're manic and want to go on adventures, and they also need to be compatible when you're super down and needy, and even when you're feeling well or just balanced. Those are things that I just never considered until I started researching stuff like this. Anyways, we made it to the 10th one, and when you're stable, it's a good idea to think about what the definition of love is for you personally. It's good to think about the way that you experience love when you're stable and how you experience it when you're manic. See if you can pinpoint some of the differences of what it means to you and when that state basically changes. As I've said many times from my own experiences, these are all things that I never put much thought into, and especially when I'm love drunk. Committing to a relationship is one of the biggest life decisions that we can make, hands down. So I think it's really important to invest just a little bit of time into doing it right, because we all know how devastating the wrong one can be for everyone involved. So I hope you found some of this information useful, and maybe it'll be something that'll stick the next time you feel those butterflies and want to fly to Paris and get married a month after you meet someone. Thank you so much for spending this time with me as usual. Welcome to Polar Warriors, and please show your support for what I'm doing by subscribing or interacting with my channel. It really does mean a lot to me, and hopefully we'll see you back here soon for another new video. Now go get on out there and love carefully. We'll see you soon.